Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Ask a Clutter Boss, the internet's best decluttering advice show. I am Gina Ledwith, clutter coach with Clutter Boss, and I'm filling in for Jess Marcy this week. If you are here, say hello. Hello. I see some viewers here. Thank you for being here. We have some I love these questions actually because they're a lot of back to basics kind of stuff, a little bit, and it kind of goes in line with what we've been talking about in our programs this week. So I love it. Hello, Denise. How are you today? All right. Well, I am going to get started. I'm sure we'll have more viewers say hello if you happen to join us during. All right. So, our first question is about paper. I am overwhelmed with paper. My kids' papers from school, notes from my business. I've implemented many different systems. None of them stick. How do I get to a solution that works? Hello, Susan. So, paper is one of those things that needs to be addressed constantly, right? Because we are constantly bringing paper into our home in the forms like here, kids' papers, right? If you have kids in school, those papers are coming in all the time, whether it's papers from the school, artwork, whatever the case may be. Mail is another one. Paper is just constantly coming in. So, number one, and this goes for all collections, you have to declutter first. No system is ever going to work well if your collection's not decluttered. So first step is to whittle those collections down, right? You have all your different categories, but getting each one down to as little as possible and all, left with only what you've decided to keep. And then having a system for filing or keeping, however it is going to be those papers. Now, this doesn't have to be all in one place, right? So if you have business papers and you have a desk, maybe you could have a file folder in a drawer or on, one of those, organizers that go on the desk. It really depends, right? You don't have to have all the paper in the same place. So your kids' papers, if there's things, there are things you decide you're keeping, maybe you have a bin or a box or a binder, whatever the case may be, where those are kept. So the two most important components here are decluttering your paper and having a system that works. So the system for paper, incoming paper, deal with it as soon as possible, right? So I'm going to use mail as an example because I think it's the easiest to understand and we all get mail, so we can relate, right? The mail comes in, you take it out of the mailbox, immediately throw away whatever is junk, whatever you already know, which I think we know that pretty quickly, right? Whatever you know is not being kept, throw it out right away. Do not hold on to that paper. Then what's left might be something you need to do something with. Maybe you have to make a phone call. Maybe you have to pay a bill. Maybe it's something you need to keep until another something happens, right? Um, so those papers, you can get a shallow bin or tray. I say tray. Tray is a better word here. A shallow tray. They do make them for the desk, but you can get a cardboard box and cut it down. Just make sure it's shallow because you don't want the paper to accumulate to too much, right? So the point of the shallow container is that your system is going to entail tackling that paper before the tray overflows. So of course, some of the things in there might be timed things like a bill, right? You want to have a system for paying those bills. So again, the system can be different for each category of paper. It really depends. But having that one tray where you put paper that you need to do something with, but you're not yet going to do that in the moment. So you're tossing what you already know is not being kept, and then you're storing what's left in the shallow tray if it is something you still need to address, or you're filing it in whatever system you have in place for that. So I hope this helps. Declutter first, have a strategy for storing what you're keeping, and have that tray for things that need to be addressed, but just not in the moment, like bills or making phone calls or things like that. If you have any questions, of course, if you're in It's All Clutter, you can always post in there as follow-ups or submit another question. But I hope that was helpful. I'm going to move on to the next question, which is very simply, how do I get started? And I love this question because I think this question can pertain to someone literally just starting out with decluttering, right? They've decided they're going to declutter their home and now is the time, and I'm starting fresh and I don't know what to do. And I think this can also apply to anyone that's either in our programs or has been doing work on decluttering already. And for some reason, whether it's in a life event or a vacation or anything that kind of takes you off that path, and then you come back and it's like a new thing because getting thrown off your routine can feel like you're starting over sometimes. So I love this question because I think it really can pertain to anybody at any point in this journey. So getting started can be overwhelming, right? So we say, like, just you want to start with the absolute easiest things. Just decide that you are going to each and every day, and this, I'm going to use this as an example because it may work for you. It's been working really well for a lot of members in our programs right now. 10 items a day. And if that seems like a lot, do 5. Whatever the number is, 10 just seems to be the magic number lately, so I'm using it. Just decide that you're going to declutter 10 items a day. Now, these items can be garbage, they can be broken items, ripped clothing, things that are easy. You want to go for the low hanging fruit. Definitely don't even think right now about going for things that are harder decisions, right? If you have an overabundance of plastic bags or paper bags or whatever the case may be, these are easy decisions that you should start with. And just make a commitment that each day, and again, if you miss a day, no worries. The consistency is what we're going for. And that does not have to be the same exact thing every single day. So getting started entails a commitment to start and start with something. I say 10 items. It could be 10 minutes, whatever feels right to you, but what feels right in the sense that it's doable. You feel like, all right, I can do that. This is not overwhelming. This is not difficult. I can absolutely do this. And I promise you, most of the time, as you get going, you're going to surpass that goal because you've made it minimal so that it doesn't feel overwhelming and doable. Yet, once you get going, motivation starts to come. And so, generally, you will end up doing more than you set out to do. But make that commitment, decide what that minimal goal is, and just get started with the easiest stuff. I hope that helps. And the next question has a little bit of the same um, aspect to it. I used to feel overwhelmed and kind of ran around trying to do everything, but felt like nothing got done. I have toned that down now and I don't feel so stressed, but I also feel like maybe I'm going the other extreme and taking too much me time in between taking the kids to all their events and life things. I think it also just might help to hear, get your butt in gear and keep at it. That's really helpful sometimes, for sure. I also need to dedicate time to both new home and prepping old home to rent. It feels like either or, and with a little less than 3-hour childcare from pre-K during weekdays, I need to reevaluate how to use time better. So the strategy I was just saying with getting started can really help to build that momentum and consistency. But in your case, time management is going to be crucial here, right? Because you have set amount of time, you have multiple projects. I say projects like old home, new home, going on. So you're going to want to prioritize. Whatever those time constraints are, you always want to do anything, in my opinion, do anything with a time constraint first. And when you decide whatever the priority list is, like making a list of everything that has to get done can be super helpful because from there you can prioritize those tasks within each bucket, and bucket meaning new home, old home. And I'm just going to use those for now since that's the seems to be the bigger categories or the bigger projects that you've mentioned here. So what has to get done in the old home to have it be ready to rent, and what are things you want to have done in your new home? And so once you have that list of items, you can prioritize and say, okay, because sometimes you say, okay, I'm going to do XYZ, but then you realize you have to do something else to start that, and then something else. So sometimes it's like, wait, I can't do this until that's done. So laying it out and having a plan can really help, so that you can see what the tasks are and the order in which they have to go. And that could change along the way. From, your perspective at first may actually change as you go through it. But having a roadmap to start can really help, because the overwhelm of feeling like, there's too much, or finding the balance between taking care of yourself and doing these projects can be difficult. So if you have it in a list and a roadmap, it's out of your head, it's on paper, and you can start to make a plan based off of that stuff. Once you decide what that next step is that has to happen, just focus on that. Don't worry about the rest of the list. Put all your effort and your mental and your physical energy into that first thing. And then once that's done, you check it off, and then you decide what the next step is, and you focus only on that. And this way, and you can bounce back and forth between the new home and old home, which sounds like you're going to have to do if you wanted to do them simultaneously. Of course, you can decide to do one all at the same time. It's the same with anything in the home, like, decluttering an entire room before moving on to the next one. Some people work really well that way, and some don't. So start small as far as the task that you're expecting yourself to get done within that time frame you have. And let's just say it's the 3 hours. Maybe you break that 3 hours down into decluttering and self-care, and maybe there's another category there that needs to happen. But then within that, breaking it down between old home, new home, maybe it's one day each, and you kind of alternate that way. Maybe it's part of the time in one, part in the other. It really depends. But the goal here, again, just as with getting started, is to start small, make a plan, and just focus on that task at hand until you're ready to move on to the next one. Finding balance between all the things in life can be really difficult. So committing to a certain amount of time and then adjusting it as you go. Just because you commit, like, let's just say today you said, okay, I'm going to do 30 minutes on my old home, and that's every single day. And for some reason, you do 30 minutes, and then you want to keep going, and then your other task or whatever was not, doesn't get done because you're still focusing on this project. It can be okay to do that, right? So when you have momentum and you're in the flow, you kind of want to keep going, I think. But really prioritizing here for you, I think, is going to be the number one thing. So what has to happen now, and what time constraints do you have? And then, of course, working within the time that your children are in pre-K would be really great. This way you don't feel the stress of having to continue working on whatever the thing is when they come home. And then you can actually have time with them. You can have some alone time, hopefully. I know how hard that can be. So I hope this works. I think just sitting down and really mapping out a plan would be a really great idea. And then adjusting it as you go, and just making sure that you commit to that one thing every single day to build that consistency and momentum. Any questions on anything that I've said, or any thoughts, or aha moments in what I've said, or anybody who's been down this road want to share their experience? Feel free to do that in the comments. For anyone that doesn't know or isn't a part of our It's All Clutter Facebook group, definitely check that out. It is a free, non-judgmental community where coaches, we hang out in there. We can answer your questions. The community is amazing. And I guarantee you'll find someone who has been in your shoes or is in your shoes and really, really, truly understands what you're going through. So definitely check that out if you're not already there. Thank you to those of you who submitted questions, to those of you that are here listening. It's always great to see so many familiar and new faces and names. So that's all I've got for today. If there's nothing else, I will end here. I wish you all an amazing week, and definitely keep in touch with us and let us share your struggles, your wins, whatever the case may be. And I hope to see you around in the Clutter Boss groups. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.